What's up, guys? Simon Edwards here at Pumacom with Heatseeker Sports. You can follow us on X at Heatseeker Sports. And I'm here to do a little breakdown of the Thursday Night Showdown game. It's Kansas City Chiefs versus Detroit Lions. And this is the first game of the season. And this is a new show that we're doing. It's called Gamescript. And I'm going to be taking looks at showdown slates in these shows and breaking down different ways to approach these games, like trying to get away from the chalky builds and trying to give some ideas on different alternative ways that the game can play out. We basically want to be playing against 20% of the field versus 80% of the field. So we're going to try to narrow down these games and find some ways that they may play out based on teams' weaknesses and different approaches that coaches can take and whatnot, and try to give you a path that's different than what you might be reading in other places. So we've got the Chiefs versus the Lions, and I think with this game having the high total that it has, people are going to be playing for shootouts. We know people are going to be playing for shootouts. The Chiefs are favored. We know people are going to be leaning probably towards the Chiefs. They have a lot of cheap weapons on the team. And with Kelce out, they're going to be spreading the ball around a lot more. I think Patrick Mahomes will be spreading the ball around a lot more. And they have a bunch of cheap weapons on that team to throw to. So I think that people are going to probably gravitate mostly towards Patrick Mahomes as the captain. In general, I don't like playing quarterbacks in the captain. And I make exceptions for guys like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or guys like that can just blow away the field as far as points scored and just dominate in that captain position. But I think in this game, I'm going to be fading Patrick Mahomes in the captain. I don't like his weapons that he has in this game. And without Kelce in the game, I think he's just going to be spreading the ball around a little bit too much. And it's going to be difficult to try to pinpoint the pass catchers that you want to stack with him. But I think that we can find a path where we can avoid Patrick Mahomes and quarterback in general in the captain spot. We want to have him in our flex because he's going to be the highest scoring player on the Chiefs for sure. So we'll take a look at a few angles here and try to figure out a decent lineup build. So this is going to be almost like a Super Bowl for Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, this is probably his biggest game of his career. He is leading a team that is being hyped up leading into the season. They're the favorites to win the division. Dan Campbell, he's a gritty coach. He's a player's coach. The players love him. He's an entertaining guy. And usually in these big moments, the team comes together and they play hard for the coach. So I think that Detroit is going to come here on a mission to make a statement in this game. I think that they're going to come prepared. Well, they're going to be well prepared. They're going to have a decent matchup with Kelce being out and Patrick Mahomes not really having that many weapons to throw to. And they're also missing Chris Jones on the Kansas City side, and that's going to help Detroit out a bunch too, because Chris Jones is the best player on Kansas City's defense, and Detroit already has a high-powered offense. So now they have a high-powered offense going against a team that's missing their best defensive player. So I think there's a few different variables that are coming into play here that are going to make it so that Detroit has a decent shot at winning. And I think that they're going to go all out to win this game on this big stage, opening up the season against the Super Bowl champs. And Dan Campbell, basically, this is his biggest game of his career. So I can totally see Detroit sneaking away with a win in this one. And the way that I think that they might approach doing this, they're going to want to keep the Chiefs offense off the field as much as possible, obviously, because they don't want to deal with Patrick Mahomes. So I think Detroit, when they get the ball, they're going to rely a lot on their running game, and they also have a short passing game. They have a bunch of short passing weapons that I think they'll try to control the clock with this game with short passes and running the ball. And I think, like as far as the Chiefs may struggle to keep up with, their limited time, like that the offense has on the field and their limited weapons. So let's take a look at some angles here that we can go for with this type of game script. What I like to do when I approach a game like this, trying to basically go with the under in the game total, with that all that running that I think Detroit's going to do. I want to make one of their running backs the captain in this one. So we're going to take a look at Jahmyr Gibbs. We've been drafting him in the best ball offseason. So let's take a look at Gibbs here. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Let me switch this up. I got to get to a showdown slate here. All right, so we're going to go and take a look at what we have here. I'm going to go with Gibbs in the captain. And usually, if I'm projecting the game to kind of be a slower game, one thing with Kansas City and Detroit allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks last season, and Kansas City was actually the team that allowed the second most points to fantasy points to quarterbacks last season. So I think a lot of people are going to try to jam in both of these quarterbacks into their lineups. I want to take a little different approach. I'm going to put Jahmyr Gibbs in the captain, and I'm going to put David Montgomery in there instead of Jared Goff. So I'm basically hoping that the Detroit is able to move the ball easily, hopefully. And I think that rather than passing touchdowns, I think Montgomery kind of comes in the short yardage and maybe scores a couple touchdowns. I have Jahmyr in the captain because I believe that he could get a decent amount of targets in this game. He's going to be probably one of the most targeted guys in this game. And I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown will be probably the second most targeted, or the main most targeted guy, with Jahmyr Gibbs being the second most targeted guy. So I'm going to start with these three as kind of my core Detroit guys that I'm going to play. And if we're taking this game script, we want to have Patrick Mahomes in there because we know that he's going to be the highest scoring player on the Chiefs, and we're going to have the salary to play with. When Kelce has been out, Noah Gray has done pretty good in the past, and we know how the Chiefs like to rely on their tight end. One thing to note is that the Chiefs have a new OC this year. With their former OC going to Washington, they had to bring in a new OC. So their game plan might be a little different than they have in the past. But we know that Andy Reid is mainly doing those, calling those plays anyways. I'm going to put Noah Gray in there as my tight end to pair along with Mahomes, because I think that that's probably going to be his main, one of his main targets throughout the game. That gives us 6,300 in salary to play around with. Some guys that you could look at here. If you wanted to add another Detroit guy, I probably would fade Marvin Jones because Kansas City does uh, pretty good against that role that Marvin Jones plays in this offense. I would be looking if I wanted to add another Detroit guy. I would probably be looking at Josh Reynolds, um, Josh Reynolds, or Khalif Raymond. I think those guys are going to be in the best position to take on Kansas City's defense in this. I think Kansas City is uh, pretty weak against. Hang on here. Kansas City is weaker against where these guys line up. Um, Marvin Jones, he's a fade. They do pretty. Kansas City's defense has done pretty well guarding against left receivers. Josh Reynolds, he has a much better matchup, so that's why I kind of lean Reynolds over Jones. Khalif Raymond, I think he lines up in the right too, and that's where Josh Reynolds lines up. So that's why I like Raymond a little bit. As far as the defense for Detroit, they do the best against middle receivers, defending the middle receivers, not necessarily the slot receivers, because Detroit's allowed the most fantasy points to slot receivers, but they do well in guarding the middle in general, and those are mainly, I think, shorter passes. They do better against shorter passes and longer passes. So I wouldn't fade Sky Moore, but he's not my favorite receiver in this game. I kind of like MVS better, like as a boundary receiver. I think he's also in a alignment that matches up best against Kansas City's defense. Kansas City does not play well against. I'm sorry, Detroit does not play well against left aligning receivers, and especially deep left. So they'll be vulnerable to where MVS lines up the most. So that puts him in a good position. He's another option that you could plug into that final flex spot there. Other guys, you could always go with one of the kickers if you think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and maybe Detroit's kicker would be better just to give you more reason to keep Goff out of the game. Maybe they score a couple field goals when they drive stall in the red zone or something like that. You could also start, obviously, Detroit's kicker. I'm not sure if that's going to be Patterson or Badgley. I'd have to do a little bit more research on that. You also have the defenses, like maybe the Lions defense comes up with a pick six or something like that. I'd like the Lions defense better than the Chiefs defense, even though they're playing. Chiefs are playing at home, just because of the situation with Chris Jones in there, and then also the Chiefs have some banged up guys in the secondary too. So I like Josh Reynolds, Richie James. He's interesting. He's definitely interesting. I don't know that we need to go there. I think the lowest I would go is probably Raymond, like we were talking about earlier, maybe Justin Watson. But beyond that, maybe Blake Bell, just if you want to pivot off of Noah Gray, who's probably going to be chalky. Blake Bell might be a good guy to pivot to, and then maybe leave a bunch of salary on the table. Because keep in mind, this is going to be a huge contest, a huge player pool in this contest. You're competing against a boatload of people in this, so you want to try to differentiate your lineup as much as possible. And obviously, one of the ways that you can do that is leaving a ton of salary on the table. But yeah, this is kind of the direction that I'm leaning towards right now. I'm not going to fill out the whole lineup because obviously they don't like that. but this is, I think, a good start for building a lineup. As far as captain, I like Gibbs a lot and I like Montgomery. If I'm going with that running game as my angle for playing this game script here, I'm going to probably be rotating out those running backs for Detroit. Like if you want to sub in um, Goff for Montgomery in a few lineups, that makes a lot of sense too. But for me, what I'm trying to do here is fade Goff. Like that's one of the ways I'm going to be trying to differentiate myself from the field, and I think it makes a lot of sense to start a couple running backs with the way that I think that they're going to approach this game. So that's it for this episode. Hopefully, there's some notes there that help you guys out, at least get you thinking about it. This is very early in the stages of like trying to figure this out right now. It's Wednesday night around midnight that I'm recording this, so we still have a whole day for news to break or for like different types of angles or nuggets to kind of surface throughout the day. But this should be a good way to get you guys thinking differently about how this game might play out. Don't try to go with the most popular game script on slates like this, especially with the amount of people that are going to be in this contest. It's too much. It's you're competing against too many people. You want to differentiate your lineup significantly. 296,000 people are going to be in this contest. So that's how many people that you have to beat in order to take first place in this. And with a contest like this, if you're not taking first, you're doing like some sort of a huge chop, or you're going to be, like it's going to be difficult to make money in this contest. So you want to approach it differently than everybody else is. And I think that kind of going away from Patrick Mahomes and then going with the Detroit running game as opposed to the passing game seems like the best way to do that to me. That could change. I haven't seen a bunch of content yet. If people are leaning more towards that angle of it, like going with the running game of Detroit, then I'd reconsider it. But like right now, that's the way I'm leaning. And I might put out a short video tomorrow just to kind of follow up. But hopefully that helps you guys. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. Hopefully we'll be doing these throughout the season. We'll target some games that aren't necessarily the island games, that we can give you guys a different some different content than other people are putting out there, and focusing on some of these showdown slates that are part of the main slate as well. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X at Heat Seeker Sports, and we will see you guys soon.